Some, where somebody big won't sit in front of me.
Okay. They had you down in Lumberton?
Not recently, not too recently. What happened, what was going on?
Well, the girl.
Okay.
The girl.
Not really.
They're asking the public to see if they've seen her sneakers.
Tennis shoes. Okay, yeah, I saw that.
If they have any memory of that. Is it just you and Andrew now?
Yeah, we have an evening person, Raul.
Oh, yeah, that's
He does
right.
some evening stuff for us. That's really helpful.
Yeah, that's
She's really slow. She's depressing.
yeah.
We're a little too busy for teaching.
I bet. Is Drew gonna be replaced? Drew Brooks?
I think so.
Okay.
Which is good. They need to.
Yeah. Yep.
Be dead in the water.
Seems like a lot of
Interesting
work.
to see who that will come for.
Is this Eastern Standard Time, 1:30 or
Yeah.
Central Time?
EST.
Hey, Nick. How you doing? Pretty good. Good to see you.
You got another third or fourth grade class coming in a couple of weeks? Latoya sent me an invitation.
So it's a fourth grade class from a DOD school.
Oh, DOD school.
Yeah, she's trying to get approval from the federal government to come here, but I have to set it up well in advance of that in case they get that approval. It's on Linden Oaks.
Okay. Oh, but they're coming here.
Yeah,
That's up in Hardin County.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. So,
Oh, that's that new housing area. I've never been
yeah,
there.
exactly. So I guess technically that counts as city because
Okay.
Miss Jensen went and spoke with them several
I'm gonna
weeks
give
ago.
Kathy the first opportunity since Bill, she's already spoke to the kids.
She's exactly.
So I told Latoya,
I'm
if
going to
Kathy can't do it, I'll do it.
I'm going to do my best to squeeze everything in with that tour because it's a lot less time than what we had for Village.
But it's only one class.
This is 80 kids,
80?
80
Oh, my
kids
goodness,
and
okay.
about 10 adults.
Okay.
So it'll be bigger than the last time, but less time.
Yeah, there's no way we could get each kid
No,
up there.
I'm going to have to figure something out and cut something out to make it work.
Well, this deal, if I gotta do the, all they did, okay, Kevin said you guys were gonna get the
You could
flag.
pick some kids.
Yeah, Kevin
that-
said you guys were gonna get the flag.
That looks good like that,
It
doesn't
really
it?
does.
We should probably prohibit anyone from borrowing those for anything outside of this, that way people don't tear those apparatus up.
Yeah.
So there's the mayor. We're good? Okay. So it says we're good. So good.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. And certainly I would like to thank Attorney General Josh Stein for coming to Fayetteville to help educate us and make us aware of the possible scams and the possible activities that tend to take place after natural disasters. And so today I'll be followed by comments from Attorney General Stein, joined also by the District Attorney Billy West and Sheriff Enos Wright and Chief Gina Hawkins. And so at this time I'll yield to Attorney General Stein.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mayor Colvin, thank you for hosting us today. And District Attorney, Sheriff, Chief, pleasure to be with you all. I've been very pleased by the hard work that the mayor and the city have done to rebuild and begin the recovery process in the wake of Hurricane Florence. There's been a wonderful partnership among the local, state, and federal governments. The damage was immense. You all know it. You lived through it. Thousands of homes in Cumberland County were affected. Many businesses were affected. And just as the government has stepped forward to help people who are struggling, many in the private sector have done the same. Businesses have bent over backward to try to help their neighbors who need their services, need their goods. But unfortunately, when we have these hurricanes, there are always going to be some people who will exploit other people's desperation when there's money being exchanged to try to get an unfair amount of money. We've had thousands of homeowners who've been affected. Millions of dollars have already been distributed in claims and state and federal grants and SBA low-interest loans. And when that money starts to flow, that's when unscrupulous businesses will come forward to try to lay claim on it. We have received at the Attorney General's office a total of 850 price gouging complaints. The North Carolina price gouging statute remains in effect. It exists to protect people who are in a moment of desperation from being exploited by unscrupulous businesses who try to take advantage of them at their most vulnerable moment. Of those complaints, we've received about 30 from here in Cumberland County, another 20 in Robeson County. We have some, we're following up on those complaints. We have brought 3 price gouging actions to date in North Carolina. They involve tree removals primarily in New Hanover County and in the Wilmington area, where companies were charging outrageous amounts. They were engaged in bait and switch techniques and charging obscene dollar amounts to remove a tree. One company was charging $25,000 for a single tree, just an outrageous sum of money, and we have put a stop to those actions. What we want to make sure that doesn't happen here in Cumberland County is people start to move into the repair and renovation stage where they try to get their homes back online, that they don't fall victim to these scams as well. So we want folks to know that the Attorney General's office is here. It's easy to let us know if you have been approached by a price gouger. All you have to do is call our toll-free number, 1-877-5-NO-SCAM, or go to our website, ncdoj.gov/disaster, and you can file a complaint with our office. But we exist to do more than just price gouging. There are going to be unique circumstances that arise because of this storm. For instance, there was a landlord-tenant issue here where a tenant had to leave because of the hurricane. When she returned home, her apartment was flooded, and she wanted to get a termination to her lease and get her security deposit back. And initially, the property management company would not provide those two forms of relief, and my office intervened, and we succeeded in getting her lease terminated and the return of her security deposit. When folks are out there starting to do home repair, we have some basic tips that we advise people so that they can reduce the likelihood that they will be scammed. A lot of it has to do with choosing the right contractor. Because someone knocks on your door is not a good reason to hire them. It's much better to talk to neighbors, to talk to family, talk to friends, to get recommendations of good, reliable contractors. And when you have them, get 2 or 3 to submit a bid. Make sure that bid is in writing so you can compare apples to apples. Then, once you've chosen the company, make sure you get everything in writing. And that includes the total amount, the nature of the work that will be done, the materials that will be used, and the payment schedule that will be in place. Make sure that you do not pay for the work in advance. Pay for the work as it is done, and always hold back a little bit till the end to make sure you're satisfied with the work that's done, so that you have a little bit of leverage over the contractor. And if you can, pay with a check or pay with a credit card. Never pay with cash. Another type of complaint or issue that we see affecting consumers after a storm like this has to do with charities. There are always going to be some charities that pop up out of the woodwork with a wonderful sounding name, like Cumberland Neighbors for Recovery. And some of them have bad intentions. All they want to do is get their hands on your money. When you are giving money to help people recover, you want to make sure it goes to help those people and doesn't get taken by somebody and put in their pocket. So our best advice in that regard is give to organizations you already know. Give to the ones that you're familiar with, that you have confidence will put your money to good use. A final issue that folks need to be worrying about, particularly in the coming weeks and months, has to do with flood-damaged cars. There are many vehicles that were flooded and totaled because of the storm. When you are out there buying a used car, you do not want to end up with a flood-damaged car. And so make sure that whatever car you get, you have a professional mechanic inspect the car. Look under the carpet. Look in the HVAC vents to see is there evidence of mud or mildew. And that way you can protect yourself and make sure that you get the value that you deserve when you buy your car. Florence created an immense amount of despair and destruction. And what is imperative is that we don't have that despair compounded by scam artists taking people's last dollar. So we're here to let the people of Cumberland County know that if you have issues, please let our office know because we want to make sure that everybody is in full compliance with the law. And speaking of the law, I will now ask to come forward District Attorney Billy West.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Attorney General for his leadership on this issue since Hurricane Florence, and certainly thank our local government, our mayor, and the city council, our law enforcement, our sheriff and police chief, as well as our county commissioners. I think our community responded very well to the storm, and unfortunately, after these storms pass, you do have to deal with some of these issues that the Attorney General has done such a good job highlighting for you. I can give positive news to say to date, I'm not aware of a lot of ongoing investigations or certainly any pending cases which came from price gouging, contractor scams, or charity scams as a result of Hurricane Florence. But I can say that still in the system and also that have been resolved in recent years are these type of things that arose after Hurricane Matthew. And just as the Attorney General said, most of the situations we saw where contractors wanted all or most of their money up front, they then took the money and ran, or what we also saw a lot of times with some elderly residents that maybe a contractor would say, I need to fix your roof, and there would be a contract for that, and then they'd come back and say, when I was fixing your roof, I noticed that this was damaged, or when I was under your house, I saw that something else was damaged, and that was fraudulent, and they were either doing the damage themselves or they were asking for money for things that were not even broken in the first place. So those are the type of scams that we've seen, and I would just say that the DA's office is committed to partnering with our local law enforcement, with the Attorney General's office, the U.S. Attorney's office, if necessary, to prosecute anyone who would try to take advantage of someone during these difficult situations. But again, just thank you for being here, and again, thank you to the Attorney General for his leadership across the state in our recovery.
Good afternoon. As stated before, as AG said and Billy said, we haven't had many complaints about scams. But again, folks have been taking advantage of a lot of the elderly folks here. Being that we had Florence come through here, a lot of scams are that people calling about jury summons and giving out money. We do not ask you for money. Trust me. If we want to come and get you, we're going to knock on your door. Remember that law enforcement will knock on your door. We will not call you and say, hey, we need your money. Or we will not call you and tell you we're coming to arrest you. We don't do that. We don't give you the opportunity to get away. So, again, remember, scam, jury summons. We're not asking you for money, okay? I think about a couple of weeks ago, someone was using one of my officers' captain's names, saying that Captain so-and-so, this is Captain so-and-so, I'm looking for so-and-so, and I need some money because we have a warrant for you not showing up for court. That's not so. That's not so. So remember that. Just because these folks are not coming around knocking on your doors, don't believe they're not sitting in a room somewhere trying to take your money. Again, if it comes down to it, just like the AG said, Attorney General said, charity. What I love about Fayetteville is we come together in hard times. We take care of each other. That's what we need to continue to do. Give your charity money to local folks. Take care of the people in the community. Again, the sheriff's office will not call you and ask you for any money. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And at this time, I guess we'll entertain any questions for the Attorney General or the District Attorney or the Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
So did I understand you said that there have not been that many complaints in the Fayetteville, Cumberland County area? Is that correct?
We have received about 50 price gouging complaints for Cumberland and Robinson combined, and we are investigating those at the moment, but no lawsuits have been filed.
Can you highlight the type of complaints of those 30 and 20 down in Robinson County?
Yes.
What are the nature of those?
Sure. The nature of the complaints, and it sort of changes as the storm comes and goes. So initially we got a lot of complaints about bottled water. Then we started to get complaints about rental cars and hotel rooms as folks were trying to flee the storm. And then since then we've gotten some home repair and tree removal complaints. And at this point, our primary concern has to do with home repair because the initial panic of the storm has passed. And what we want to make sure is, I mean, folks are going to have to spend a lot of money to get their houses. Fixing up your house can be a multi-$1,000 activity, and we just want to make sure that when people spend thousands of their own money, that it gets spent well and it's not squandered. Yes, sir, in the back. Oh, I'm sorry, right here.
I've seen on social media folks sort of taking photos of examples of price gouging. Do you consider that to be sufficient for them to bring to y'all, or are there more suggestions that you would have on how to document potential gouging?
It all depends on whether the person actually engaged in the transaction or just observed it. So if somebody went and purchased something, a generator, and they have the receipt for what it cost and it was an inflated amount, that's the best kind of information for us. But there are other people who just saw bottled water and the price of it, and if they didn't actually purchase it, then a photograph can be helpful evidence. Yes, sir.
I'm Neil Bullard. I have property at 896 Santee Drive. This property was used by the Department of Transportation. Their contractor used the property to dump construction material from the All-American Expressway when the All-American was built. This property has suffered a lot of damage during the hurricane. I've employed 5 attorneys that I have paid to give me advice. All 5 attorneys have told me that the solution is political. If I know the right people in politics, I can get it repaired. I'm asking, will you get involved in this and help me get it repaired? This is political.
My office, at the Attorney General's office, we don't represent individual consumers or homeowners in their disputes. That's just not what our authority involves. But to the extent you have an issue and want to let us know, we can share it with the Department of Transportation and try to facilitate that conversation. Thank you. Anything else?
Bring it to you.
what is the proper course that someone should go through? Should they call the sheriff's office, police department, if they feel they're being scammed? Or should they call you directly? What's the best recourse?
The great thing is, with the great partnership I have with Sheriff Wright and with the city of Fayetteville, if you complain to them, it will end up with us. But we urge folks to file a complaint. Online is the easiest way to get it responded to quickly. And I mentioned our URL, ncdoj.gov/disaster, and you can find the complaint form there. Or just call our toll-free number, 877-5-NO-SCAM, and somebody can help talk you through the process of how you file a complaint. And generally, price gouging is not criminal. It's a civil issue where they're violating a civil law. If what we see, however, is somebody engaged in what we think may be criminal activity, such as obtaining property through false pretenses, that's when we'll reach out to law enforcement and to the district attorney, and if appropriate, hand the case off to them.
How long a period will we go in this?
The price gouging statute remains in effect for 45 days after the declaration of an emergency. As you all know, we had a subsequent hurricane that came through, and so the price gouging statute remains in effect in North Carolina today. All right. Thank you all very much.